What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a special second edition of Before the Battle, Duck Hunting Edition. We wanted to hop on here tonight with our guy, Jake Burns from Buckeyes-Film-Breakdown. As always, we got Coach Slate, and we've got myself, Jeremy, here, courtesy of Cornerstone Home Remodeling and the Barn Baseball and Softball Academy. We brought Jake in tonight so him and Coach Slate can really dive into some film. We're going to look at some things the Buckeyes can do to attack Oregon. Pretty exciting stuff. We are 18 hours away, give or take, from game time as we record this. And I'm excited to see what these guys have for us. So I'm going to sit back and chime in with a question every now and then and let these guys do their thing.
Hey, real quick, before we get started, I'm going to get my shout out of the way really early. My dad, today's his birthday. So happy birthday to Pistol Pete, turning 71. It's crazy to think that he's 71 years old. Lived a good life. Unfortunately, he's at the hospital with my grandma right now who's got COVID. So,
oh man,
fun times in the Slater household, but happy birthday to my dad. This dude is he's it, man. He's an all-American dad, man. Whenever I needed him, he was always there, showing up to Tennessee for football games when I was in college. He's the guy. So happy birthday, Pistol Pete. Love you, man.
Hellacious bowler back in the day.
Dude, we lived at Star Lanes, man. I'm talking leaving there at 8 years old, bloodshot eyes, because everybody's smoking cigarettes in there. I mean, that was
smoking
and
non-smoking sections back in the day, right? Invisible.
Still the best pizza Marion's ever had in my lifetime.
Oh yeah, it's not even close. Yeah, it's not even close.
So Lincoln Stevenson, we need the recipe when you hear this.
That's it.
But yeah, man, I'm excited to have Jake on here. Yesterday we touched on, a lot of the things that I think the Buckeyes could do defensively to really, get Dillon Gabriel off of his spot. I think the Buckeyes really have to have a good game plan for that. Find a way to manufacture those stops, man. Whatever it takes. It doesn't matter if they get a good drive going. Find a way to create a turnover, just like we did against Penn State. Doing those things, I think it's vital, man. And I think the Buckeyes defense is pretty hungry. So, Jake, that's really what we touched on yesterday. And so we're happy to have you on here to kind of just talk it up and see what the Buckeyes can do to attack Oregon's defense.
Yeah, no, it's going to be similar. I said it to you guys before. It feels like a similar score game where a couple stops here and there. I mean, if you recall the first matchup, Ohio State gets it's either a stop or an interception down there near their own end zone, or it's just going to be weird like that, right? Ohio State should have had a kick to win the game. So it's going to be in the 30s. Both offenses are just talented and they understand how to use the rules of, space and numbers and leverage. And they're just really good, man. And probably, you can remove probably the two best offenses in the playoff remaining. So it's fun, but also crummy that they're meeting in this, quarterfinal here. But it's neat to see them in a perfect weather environment, a neutral stadium that'll be filled with both sides fans. It won't be an advantage there. It should be a great football game. They're two good teams, and I would be genuinely surprised if there was a no-show by either of these offenses or a low-scoring football game here. So I think it's got a chance to be a lot of fun. So we'll see if they get out on the right side of it. But I think you would agree with me too that these are two different teams that early in the year. I mean, especially Ohio State. I can't say that I lived in Oregon's world. They keep the locomotive moving, and there certainly comes a heavy amount of pressure late in the season when you're undefeated and all that comes with that. But that defense Ohio State brought to Oregon, I think, is vastly different. Schematically, I think Cody Alexander, I'm sure you've seen Cody around social, has done a great job breaking down what Jim Knowles has done to get different, varied, and more of his Oklahoma State stuff, and it's working for them. And I'm excited to see how they, like you said, get Dillon off of his spot, make him uncomfortable, because he really lived in a cocoon in the first matchup. And that's a variable that's just kind of hanging there, right? Is you're going to have to play him one-on-one. You're going to have to win more of those battles. Denzel Burke is probably chomping at the bit to get another chance to go against these guys. There's just no way he'll have as bad a day as he did there. But you got to win more of those matchups and make Dillon uncomfortable. I'm fascinated to see how they do that. And we can talk about what, largely I wanted to watch some late in the season stuff. I watched a little bit of Wisconsin because that game was pretty sideways results-wise, low scoring, weird. And then I watched a little bit of Washington, but a lot of Penn State because Penn State put it on them. I mean, they really gave them some trouble. So we'll go through a lot of that too and explain some of the mint stuff that Dan Lanning is who I mean by he has brought with him through his Alabama and Georgia days and into into Oregon, which is a very fun defense. It's tough.
Absolutely.
Tough, and I don't think he quite has the personnel he wants to quite yet, but I do think that they'll make it tough on you. I mean, Ohio State's the one team. Like, I genuinely feel like if Oregon sneaks past Ohio State, it's going to be tough to stop them. They're just the offenses that remain. Ohio State is the one that will give them the most trouble by a mile, just because of their wide receiver personnel and how they can handle some of this man match stuff they throw at them. So.
Yeah. And the one thing I think, because the game happened so long ago, people forget, everybody just remembers that last play for Will Howard, but people forget that he played a very efficient game.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buckeyes had 400 and I believe 67 yards of total offense. So, I mean, the Buckeyes played well, right? The defense was the one that didn't really show up. And so I think it will be interesting to see how the Buckeyes really work to win our one-on-ones on both sides of the ball. When I say one-on-ones, I don't necessarily just mean our corners. We talked about it yesterday. Like Tyleik Williams has to win his one-on-ones when we get him on the interior, right? JT and Jack have to be able to win their one-on-ones on the edge. Like those are things that have to happen to beat this team. And so, I'm excited for it, man. I think this is just going to be such a good game. I think this is the de facto national championship. I wish it wasn't happening right now. I wish it was happening in a couple weeks, but I think this is going to be a really good one at the Rose Bowl too, man. Like you can't get a much better venue than that. And I know the guys are going to be pumped up to be playing on that grass too, man. I'm looking at it right now at the halftime and there's that bum Desmond Howard over here talking, but I'm looking at the field in the background. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So
nothing
I'm
like
excited.
It. I mean, listen, Dylan, I had to send you the clip. My guy is all about sunshine and grass. If you've not seen his interview, he might be trying to relax the brain a little bit before they play here.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, no, it's the stage, man. This is
of
all of them, it's the stage. It's gonna be fun to watch. That's for certain. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State. I kind of go back to this when we talked about, not to get off topic, but some of their identity crisis things. I think you would agree with me in that first matchup that even though Ohio State did move the football very well, they didn't run it exceptionally well at times. And I think this is where it spawned a little bit of the losing the line of scrimmage battle because they really were beat up defensively at the line of scrimmage. They lost that battle for most of the day. And I think that spawned a lot of we want to be tougher, physically stronger. And I know Ohio State's offensive line, they lost left tackle, forgetting his name. You guys can probably jump in and help me out there.
Josh Simmons.
Yeah, I got hurt that game, right? They're a different offensive line than they were back then. But I do think there's a lot of let me put it this way. I think Ohio State wants this one bad. And I think they really want to prove that first game was not indicative of who they are physically and expect them to try to establish that on both sides of the ball because Oregon's offensive line really manhandled them at times and really made it easy on Dylan to make whatever decision he wanted to make and some run lanes for them. So I am very fascinated by that. I really wish Oregon wasn't favored because Lanning can paint a story. Ohio State is favored in this game, and I know Lanning can paint a story better than anybody about we're the underdogs and that stuff like that. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is Ohio State's game. I mean, I know they wanted to win the Michigan game, and that's obviously outside of the realm here, but they want Oregon again, and they want them bad. And I'm fascinated to see how they go about that in a man-to-man, person-to-person, how that battle looks up front and collectively. I know, these guys, you listen to JJ talk, it sounds like they're pissed. They want it, they want this game back.
Absolutely. I mean, and also, you get this idea of, the blue bloods in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. And then you got this outsider, this Pac-12 team that's coming in, that's got endless amounts of NIL money. And now they're the ones that are really running the show in the league. Like you kind of feel a little bit of pressure to go out there and really show them no, this is actually the real Big Ten that you're facing right now. And so it'll be interesting, man. Like you said, man, I think the guys are fired up. Had the chance to send some texts back and forth with a couple guys on the team. And I know that they're excited. I know they're pumped up, ready to prove themselves. And so that's something that I'm excited for, man. I'm a homer, so I want to see Luke go out there and just ball out, man. I can't get that thought out of my head, man. I just want to see him play well. Hopefully he plays every snap. That'd be great. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so we can just go ahead and jump right into the film when we get a chance.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll get everything uploaded here, and I'll get a screen brush up so that we can talk through if you want to sort of pinpoint some things. So yeah, I think that's good to share if you guys want to throw that up.
I'll do that right now.
Yeah, one thing Jake hit on is the rushing numbers from that first game being skewed. I mean, the Buckeyes had 141 yards, but 53 of those came on one run by Travion. So he finished with 10 for 87. You take the 53-yarder out, and he averaged 3 yards a carry. I mean,
right. And I'm not a firm believer. I know exactly what you're saying. I get into this world a lot. If you take out the good, anything's bad, right? But like, there's rush efficiency that matters. You know what I'm saying? And anytime you do pop one and you look at that removed, I think Joe Thomas, ironically, Brown's side of ththings really explained this well back in the day, how that can get very skewed, right? You can have a 70-yard run, but every other yard's 1, 2, -4, -1, 3, it doesn't keep your offense conducive. And I don't think the offense was as complimentary as they needed it to be that day. So I'm fascinated to see how they get into some better run situations because, let's just talk through this real quick. I mean, what they like to do. So they're a 2 high safety team. They're going to play a man short in the box. They run what's called the mint front stuff. They do some tight front stuff. Pretty popular these days, but essentially, it's like jump in here at any time with any interjections you want. You're going to get a head up 0 nose. You're going to get 2 4 eyes that are going to happen here. So you're going to get what's called a 0 nose is usually head up, but they'll move them. They shift these guys around. It's not all singular in nature. So you get 2 4 eyes, what are inside eye of these tackles. These linebackers split the inside foot right here, and usually what you will see is these apex players, if there's an attached tight end, they'll walk down, they'll be in the box. If there's a detached their side, they'll split the difference, be able to play here. But they're wall players trying to spill every. So if you get inside and you get these guys playing to the B gap, the nose is more of a read and react player. So he's going to stock, he's going to get his hands on. And really they're not a 2-gap team, but they're a read team. So they're going to get into you and then they're going to feel out where they're trying to be moved to and react accordingly. It's not true technical 2-gap stuff. It's a little different, but that's the way they're trying to play it. So what they're trying to do is put everybody inside, make this tight zone, inside zone uncomfortable, make them bounce it. And then we have this thing is what they call like roll it off the table, slow roll these guys off the table, whatever direction. And we have players ready to box this in theory. Yeah. So this is what they like to live in more than anything. They sacrifice a man in the box often. And when that, they would just what they prefer, especially early downs, is they want to use these safeties to cap things vertical, right? They're going to cap deep routes if they can cap them, minimize risk. They'll play man stuff. They'll play variations of man stuff where it's bracketed outside, and they'll play zone inside of it, and they'll play man rules, which is like, I think we talked about this with Tennessee. They did it a little bit too. It's super popular. Some call it mod. There's a mod call, which is basically like a 5-yard rule on sticking with your man. And they'll play, some Meg stuff, which is, locking up guys on the outside, man everywhere he goes. I think mod is man on demand. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So I think that's right.
On a high school level, we call it man outside and deep. And so basically it's just giving them the rule. Okay, if he goes outside at, like you said, at that 5-yard range or whatever, then we match him and we take him, all of him, right? If he goes vertical, he's ours. But if he goes inside, we have a China call or whatever call that you want to give, and now we zone off into our quarter of the field. So that's
right.
But yeah, man on demand is what Cody Alexander goes with.
So we have there's 2 ways to look at this. There's really zone match, which is less spot dropping. So like in theory here, say this looked like pre-snap cover 2, right? Soft corner, maybe a cloud flat up high, down corner here, cover 2, and your Tampa 2 and the mic up the field, right? Like typical stuff you see. It's a video game thing more than anything else these days with these. These are all modified, and it mirrors. It's not what you see, but drawn up. That's the idea here. Is there are teams who do zone spot dropping, and we're just going to read QIs, and we're going to get to a location, and we're going to play off that. Then there's like zone match teams, which are really, instead of it's really called pattern matching more so than anything else. You got rules where guys are going to go, and we're going to follow those rules. If 2 goes outside, he's passing them off. If 2's vertical, who are we giving him to? Am I taking him? You're taking him. it's a lot of that two trap coverage stuff, or palms is a popular term. But what these guys like to do is a little different. It's more of cover 7, Saban stuff, which is more man match Pringle. So they're trying to kind of eliminate risk by playing more man coverage than anything else. I think by definition on some of these sites who track these things, they only play man coverage like 35% of the time. I probably think it's higher based on their rules, but you know what they're trying to do, and it's a hard thing to learn, but what they're trying to do is run a variation as often as they can of man-like coverage that has answers built into it for man beaters, mesh, variations of over routes, things like that usually give man coverage a bunch of fits.
Yep.
And we don't need to get too deep in the weeds. That's not really, I don't think that's conducive for what we're trying to do. But what you will notice if you watch, for you guys who are watching the game, is that it will very often look like man coverage. Mm-hmm. And that while that's true to an extent, what they are doing is modifying how they run their man coverage based on releases of players. If you get in a bunch, they have a rule. Some teams do cones, some things do FIFO, and different variations of first in, first out, who's passing these things off to other people. It's a preferential thing based on what you want to do, based on what you think Ohio State's going to run, and they'll modify that versus Penn State or Wisconsin or whoever. But they like to live in this world that is very much man match, and they'll play quarters off of it, a little more traditional quarters, but they like to live in that man match one. And then they'll get really hyper aggressive in play one, and they'll just say, hey man, we're just going to run up and like the Browns do with Jim Schwartz, and we're going to play man and get in your face and beat us. And that's the way they're going to go about it. So they're an aggressive back half defense is how I would say, Slate. And they blitz a lot. Yeah. They will bring people. They'll bring those inside backers. They'll do some stunts. I got some examples of, they like to do some cross dogs at the linebacker level. They like to do some late release linebacker blitzes where they'll sort of read, not green dog. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Slate, like that green dog stuff. If I'm in man and my guy stays in the block, a tight end or a back, I can delay blitz. Yep. They really do more like, hey, 2 beats and go type stuff. We know, hey, maybe 2nd and 8. We know they're an aggressive team. Percentage wise tells us they're going to push it 15 to 25. Let's get you on a little delay to identify where, the protection is dropping. Those guys commit eyes to whatever level they're going to. Maybe it's a double right or he's turning back this direction. Then you go, man, take advantage of that opportunity. So they're not a predictable blitz team. They get real funky. And I think that is what they want to do. They want to make the quarterback think as often as they can. Absolutely. And Penn State did a good job making Drew think less, and we'll go through that and how they gave him some fits.
Yeah, and one thing, for the guys or for the listeners that are going to be watching the game, all the coverages that Jake was just talking about, the one thing I want us to remember or think about is they believe their athletes are as good as our athletes, right? Mm-hmm. You don't play these type of coverages unless you feel like you have athletes that can match or are better than the opposing team, and so that is one thing that they are going to be walking in with. That's one of the reasons why Danny Lanning got the head coaching job at Oregon. It's that swagger, that confidence. They are going to come in regardless of who we have at receiver and truly believe that they can lock up with them. And so you're not going to see them play soft or do anything that is not what Danny Lanning would traditionally do. They're going to be them, and they're going to play their match, their man, and say, we can lock you up. All right, we're going to make this so hard for the quarterback that it really doesn't even matter. He's not going to have time, to find JJ down the field. And so for the guys out there listening, that's the one thing that you really need to understand is that they believe their dudes are as good as our dudes.
Let's put it this way. Marion Pleasant is not going to Marion Harding and playing man match rules. Okay. Yeah. The dudes aren't the same dudes. Yeah. I was meant to get a chuckle out of you. It failed, but nonetheless, they're playing a little more spot drop. They want to do a little more of that. No, I think that the way to frame it is he's an Alabama, Georgia guy. They got dogs, right? They got guys. They got Sunday paid players. So when you have those and you can eliminate the risk of more traditional zone drops, it's a good way to play defense, right? And Absolutely. I think that Oregon has some weaknesses that they want to recruit, get better at. You look at how they're getting into the portal and getting real funky with their, they're going after guys because they want to put their guys in the situation. Why does Ohio State feel good? You guys would ask that. Well, because their receivers and skill players, I think, are better. So they probably are comfortable in this scenario. And that's where I think Ohio State will be able to match them in a way that not many teams can, right? So when you have really good secondary players, we talked about this ahead of time. And I know my good buddy John Stephenson, who I talked to about a lot of this stuff, this coverage type is an expensive coverage. And what do you mean by expensive? Well, it's a lot of time committed to learning it and mastering it. And if you can get it done, though, and you have the athletes to match it, you can put yourself into a really advantageous spot a lot of times and just really eliminate the risk. Because most defenses have a problem. It's about masking that problem either through your rush timing or your coverage ability to mask the rush issue. And that's what they're trying to do as much of as often as they possibly can. And again, that's why Alabama had prolonged success, and Georgia's going to continue to be in these spots because they recruit well. And Ohio State's doing more of it too. So they're recruiting guys that can do this stuff, and the best defenses are doing it because it's just such a good system to be in, man. So yeah, we'll talk more about it. Here's the end zone or tight view of what this defense looks like. We're talking about that, sort of 4-eye alignment, the linebacker splitting that inside foot. I just want to give you a look at what it looks like from this view. So in theory, you're like, Jake, what are you talking about, man? This is a 4 down. Well, it's not really totally a 4 down. It's a different variation, a different wrinkle of all this stuff, right? So it's a little different where this player is detached, and traditionally what you get with under fronts or over fronts is you're going to get more of a 1 technique right here and a 3 technique. So this is a different wrinkle than a traditional even front. So just being clear about that for people that are wondering, hey, why are you calling that an odd front when it's 4 down? Well, it's not traditional 4 down. If they detach this player, there's a chance he's an apex guy. And that's the whole point of this, is to play with speed. So kind of moving on, let's keep it scrolling here. Yeah, they'll get funky too, Jared. And I wanted to kind of point this out. This is a popular NFL front. We call it
Absolutely.
Boss. It's a Boss front, is a huge bigs on one side. So if we're splitting this up, and you can really walk down linebackers and get simulated pressures, they're not rigid in stylistic approach to their men stuff. So I just wanted to be clear, and I'll go through some other ones with you guys, that there are other variations of fronts that they use to make this work for them. So a look at what I was talking about. What do you mean by rolling the ball off the table? Watch how the 4 eyes play. Watch the linebackers. Watch how everybody hyper aggressive up front. You see how the nose is looping around? He's popping. We're going to shoot inside. The nose is a read player. And they got some guys, man. 55 is an NFL player for them. He's going to be a first-round pick. Inside 28 there, that linebacker. I think he's 28 or 29. This guy here, good players. Really good players for them. And they got back number 10, who was one of the Uyangalele, the in that family. He's a good football player too. He wasn't there in the first matchup, but you can see how they're down players, let's spill it. And then we have answers for when it's spilled. We have an apex player sitting. We have a defensive tackle, a nose, a 0 who's willing to kind of read and react and go. It's funky. It's different. So, as a back, you think it's an easy play to read downhill, right? All right, read downhill. This is telling me to bounce it. Look how aggressive that backer is. He's triggering. How do I get where I need to get? Okay, I'm going to bounce this. And you can see how that roll the ball off the table approach is just, it's beautiful for them when it works. It's a tough team to run vertical. We talked about Tennessee as a team to run vertical on. This is not a great vertical running team. It's not great.
Yeah, and one of the things that I wanted to point out really quick is that what they do defensively with their front is really tough against, obviously, inside zone, right? If you're trying to run zone against these guys, they're really trying to create upfield penetration, with the little different loops and things that they're doing on the interior, and it messes up blocking schemes. But it's also extremely difficult for gap scheme teams as well, right? Yep. It's hard to block down on a 4-eye that's 290 pounds, right? Yep. That's a hard thing to do. And so our tackles, Donovan Jackson and Josh Fryer, if we want to be able to run the ball effectively, they're going to have good games. And then the interior guys are going to have to stay disciplined because their interior is really good. But if they start doing those loops and things, it really gets your eyes going in places that you don't really necessarily want to go. And it's tough to stick with your rules that you've been taught.
It is messed with your mind. I mean, that's, dating back to when I was in college, the 3-3 teams and variations of a 3 down and you get a walk-up player are really just hard to block. They're just, you mess with who they're going to be going after. And when you see this crash in a player who's a read and react player flow over top, and he looks like this human being who's like a perfect, cheeseburger away from a perfect circle, but he can move. Those guys are tough to match. That's just funky. It's different. As you're an offensive line, trying to deal with this is not normal. This movement post snap is not normal. You're a pulling guard. I know I'm going for that play side inside, right? That's his idea, man. We're going down. I'm pulling in. Where the hell did he go? This is the thing. They do this stuff. They get real weird. And you can see this sort of sense of confusion that can come with this. 56 is looking around, trying to figure out, am I inside or am I outside? And yeah, man, that's what they want to do. They want to confuse you as much as they possibly can up front. And they're good enough athletically up front to do some of that stuff. I did want to give you guys a quick look at some of their coverage principles. You can see kind of how they're playing their top safety here, kind of reading, reacting. You can see this looks like man. I mean, you're looking at this pre-snap, you're seeing 2 down corners. I'm back stepping up the line of scrimmage. Like, what am I thinking is coming here? Well, I mean, smells like it could be man because of the outside corners, but it could be spot drop inside. It could be some bracket stuff. Like it melts together in a very unique way. You can tell both corners are playing mod rules, right? Vertical releases. Yep. They're playing those guys, and we're bracketing up everything up on the inside. Look at this backside safety's eyes go to number 3. Watch his eyes turn. You see number 5 down here? He's turning inside, reading that. It's tough to throw on, man. It's tough. It's really tough to throw on, and you got to have the right sort of system and schemes dialed in place to make it tough to see. And then I wanted to, before we jump to Penn State stuff, just a really fun look at how confusing this stuff can be, because this is, I want more of this on Sundays, man, to be honest with you. Lanning's good. He's good. He's just really good at this. And this is, we call this is a sim pressure stuff, right? We're going to get really funky. I think we got the Apex guys are walked in. I think we got the Mike linebacker walked in, and then everything about this looks like we're getting man coverage, right? Everything smells like man. Maybe he's got him. Maybe he's got him. I'm not sure, but we smell man coverage, and then watch what they roll into off the post snap. Everything about this, even the backer at the mic following him over. Look at him crossing over. This is as good as it gets for they're dropping into Tampa 2 off of it.
Yeah.
It is really tricky with these guys. And you listen, it's not difficult to read a now in breaker and just throw it. That's fine. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if you get a team who's on 3rd and 12, we don't care if you throw that. That's fine. Throw that. We'll gang tackle that and make you kick a field goal. So they're unique in their post snap philosophy, and I think they do a good job of getting. And then again, number 10 there is a player who wasn't playing against Ohio State. They'll get funky in their post snap, and they're getting better at that as the season has gone on. So I expect them to try to get in Will Howard's head with some of this stuff. But open anything you want to add before we dive into Penn State, or we can just jump right into this thing.
Hey, Jeremy, really quick. Who was the guy that wasn't the defensive end that didn't play in the first game?
Jordan Birch.
There we go. Yeah. So Jordan Birch is a dog. Like there's
really no doubt about that
player, man. So that's another added, challenge for this offensive line, is that they're getting.
I might have had that wrong. That could be. Yeah, I could have been screwing that up. Who didn't play in the first one? What number is he?
Gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Is he number 1 down here at the bottom of the screen? He's a big fella. Isn't he?
Might be him. Hang on.
Yeah, I think that's him.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
he's
an Apex guy for them. Got it. Okay. I had 10 and 1. I had him screwed up. My bad. Okay.
One other quick thing from that first matchup is I will be interested to see, you hit on Derek Harmon, and with McLaughlin being out. Now, Hinsman's played well, but Harmon in the middle of that line is just a freak.
Mm-hmm. Very tough player. Very good. Very fast, fluid, reactionary guy. I mean, he's up here. He's not their nose. He's not their 0 guy. He's right here. So he'll play their 4-eye more than anything else, but he is a bully. And like you're talking about these young guards, you gotta be ready, man, because he is going to ear hole these guys. He's going to be inside. He's going to play quick and aggressive and make you match up on him often. So it's going to be a guard-based matchup. This is a look at a little bit of their double mic and what they'll do with the funkiness of bringing 2 backers, and then they'll wheel out that Birch down here at the bottom of the screen. They'll drop him into flat, but this is just bracket stuff here, really, man. We're going to blitz, and we're going to kind of play off of it. And Penn State was very good about getting the football out on time. I mean, Aller had to hold on to it at times, but for the most part, read leverage really well and got rid of the football in a timely manner. This is where I think Ohio State has to live in this one. They're going to have to live as an outside zone, wide zone stretch team, and Penn State really put it on them this way, because I think most ment front people would agree that the way it's wired is not conducive to defending moving schemes, lateral or tight zone schemes. It's more, like you said, it eats up gap stuff, but it doesn't do so well from a moving standpoint, because of the nature of that inside player and what he's taught to do as far as read, react. It just gives a lot of lanes, man. And I think this is the world you'll see Ohio State trying to live in. And then Penn State got fun off of some of this stuff, lateral stuff, and made it work. So We'll hit a couple more examples of that in this game, but definitely wanted to pinpoint that one for sure.
And I think with
ahead.
the three guys that we're rotating in on the interior, I actually think that we are better suited to try to run some more outside zone stuff than we have been, right? Because I think the athleticism of Luke and Austin in there together, whether it's at left guard and right guard, you add that with Hinsman, I think you enhance the ability to actually move and have success with outside zone.
Yeah.
The only thing that concerns me with outside zone is sometimes the vision of our running backs, right? Sometimes they don't see that cutback lane, like either of those Katron or Singleton right there. He saw, that lag nose guard get scooped by the offensive tackle, and he knew, okay, now this is where I can put my foot in the ground and get vertical. I think Trey and Quinshon struggle with that at times, and so I think it's important that they understand, like, listen, if we're running outside zone, it doesn't always have to hit outside. You can put your foot in the ground and get vertical as well.
Yeah. It's just a different blocking scheme, but you can get north-south quick off this stuff for sure. And I want to be clear, because Ohio State really tried to do a lot of that with Michigan. The linebacker play is not the same. These are not as good linebacker-wise as Michigan. And the collective front is not as physical as Michigan's unit is either. Listen, Harmon's good. 55 is a really good player, but they don't have three of those guys that Michigan has. And no disrespect to Harmon, but he's not Mason Graham. So this is different. You can do this stuff where Michigan bottles it front side to back side, like an NFL defense at times. This is different. And you can really get some wrinkles in here that can work. I wanted to give you another look at just how they're pattern matching, and just like, this is zone, but watch how they're melting routes. Like, watch the field safety do a great job of sniffing out this outbreaker sail route, jumping it. Everything's bottled up man-wise, but you are going to get progression-based stuff that Aller does a good job of getting to the backside dig right here. It's not clean in the pocket. He's kind of everywhere with his feet and stepping up, and his base is wonky, but you can get to it. I mean, you can get to these backside in breakers because they want to take away and jump. Safeties are on eyes. They're going eyes to routes, right? And you can get to these progression throws if you can protect him in this one. So, again, looking at, like, they're going to take away front side at times because they're going to have the right numbers to handle it. Can you get off of that, right? Another look at spilling it. This is what they want to do, man. You want to get north-south initially. Watch them just roll it off the table. This is just another example of, like, initially first half, they did not have much success getting downhill, but this is like, they altered what they did, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But look at how everything gets inside, and you're like, oh, baby, let's bounce this sucker. And then how they're just ready to be there.
It's a great job by that safety.
It is so good. They're really good at it. But you can also get them on some of their rules too, like watching them jump outside on some of these throws. Like, watch this little inside RPO. Hey, man, we're going to read number 2. We're going to read here. We know the leverage tells us this is going to be outside. Ohio State's a bubble team. They should have bubble variations, bubble flat, slant, everything that you can mix in off this stuff to take advantage of. These guys are zealous, man. They get going. So, you're just reading the outside overhang. He's inside player, pull it and throw that little now glance, man. Just rip it. So there's examples of RPOs that Penn State put in place that really, listen, they're short in the box. So they are aggressive to the box from the apex because they know they're down a man. So you can take advantage of that. And I thought Penn State did a nice job. This is a good example of just kind of ripping it off that look. And then they did another really nice job of sniffing out how Oregon was going to align, what they were going to do to some of these wide splits. Like, look at these wide splits. These are like Tennessee type of wide splits from last week, man. These are distance. And watch how they're just saying, hey, we know they're going to try to take this away in a box. They're going to bracket over here a little bit. We got one man with a running back. Let's just put that SOB north-south. I mean, you can put Travion on that guy. It's going to be a nightmare for him. So I do find myself interested how they're going to navigate some of this. I'm Ohio State. I'm putting it out there again. How are you going to play this? What are you going to do?
And so that was a great point. It's something I literally wrote down in the notes. So if you go back to 2 years ago, right, when CJ Stroud had his great game, where did the Buckeyes find a lot of success? They found a lot of success with Xavier Johnson out of the backfield. Right. They were finding ways to get him in those one-on-one matchups with the linebacker against Georgia, who their defensive coordinator was Danny Lanning, and they were able to do some things and I believe Xavier Johnson scored a big touchdown in that game. I can't remember off the top of my head.
He did.
Yeah. So there was just a lot of different things that the Buckeyes were doing. So I know that's in the back of Coach Lanning's head. It's got to be
100%. And I think that if you track receiving backs over the course of some of those Lanning and Saban's had these issues too. Like good receiving backs can get out and go. They can play. They can have opportunity and against these looks that they present here. So a good look at their man stuff. This is aggressive. This is just low hole man, right? Just a rob low and high. So they're going to funnel everybody inside as best they can. They know they have deep help right here inside, and they have a single mic sitting inside too. Now, I will be interested how much they play this and how willing they are to sit back and let Will Howard step up, elude, and maybe run. Yeah. Will is definitely a better athlete than Drew Aller is. There's no doubt about that. No offense, Drew. But this is something that's an opportunity. But again, you run this man coverage stuff because you want to make the quarterback make all these throws. He again works front side, back to the dig, right? We talked about it, front side, back to the dig. The opportunity's there. It's just a bad ball.
Yeah.
And these turnovers deep in your own territory, just in these games, they can't happen. It's the difference in keeping it within 3 points late and 10 points late, and it changes the scope of the entire game. So, I mean, do you have an open player here? You do. Just look where the ball is on the back hip, man. You can't have it there. So win the one-on-one and put the football where it needs to go. You'll have opportunity, no doubt. So that's the turnover that really killed Penn State. They played a pretty clean game. They scored like 37 points, man.
Yeah.
There was that turnover that really changed the scope of it. So, again, looking at here's the quarters look from them, little more traditional quarters. You guys can see it, how it unfolds. You're going 4 deep, 3 under, right? We're going to try to reroute number 2 up at the top of the field. Just, take your ball to the flat, take those throws to Quinshawn and Trevion and tackle them in space. Good luck, man. Yeah. Those are going to be easy dump offs. Those are going to be there if you get them into quarters, and just identifying it and getting it out and throwing those are going to be good conducive plays for them. So here's a fun one, man. They got Big 71. They do this at Penn State a lot. Ohio State won't do this, but you can give a variation of this with Jelani or somebody to put him in motion. But like this toss fake with the backside guard pull really gave him fits, man. This run action up front really got safety's eyes inside. Listen, this isn't anything creative, guys. It's just a sail. It's a flood combination, flood variation. You're going to get a swing off of the run fake. Tyler Warren's running a sail, and you're getting a vertical. And
that's tough.
It's easy money. Yeah, it's easy money. This backside guard pull really messed with them, and they got him on a couple of these. There's nothing funky to it, man.
Yeah.
So I will be interested to see if Ohio State's running it laterally, if they don't try to get some of this right here. Watch the backside guard. Try to pull it, and then we're going to get isolated. They just got a collision on it. They went back to the same thing, man. All right, we're going to wide split these guys to the bottom of the field, and let's just try to get this linebacker. If you're going to kind of bracket this stuff. You're going to put these safeties out and cut the field in half and play the mic against us. We'll run past you. If they don't get a collision there, which I don't think they threw a flag on this, but it's the same thing as earlier. Just running one-on-one right there. So I think Ohio State needs to test it. I don't see why you wouldn't.
And you saw last week against Tennessee, the full Travion Henderson experience, right? Mm-hmm. You saw him have over 80 yards rushing, and I believe it was like 50 yards receiving, something along those lines. I think this is a game where his acumen out of the backfield, catching the ball, is going to be something that's going to be put to good use. And honestly, even utilizing Emeka in the backfield as well at times too. Mm-hmm. That's something that they've shown earlier in the year. That's something that they've shown in years past. I think that will be a beneficial thing with him and Brandon Ennis being able to motion into the backfield.
100%, man. No reason to hold back on that stuff. Another thing they did that was really good here in this one was just power read. So what this is designed to do, just as a baseline to teach everybody real quick, elementary level, we're going to read this play. We're going to go lateral. We're going to read this edge. We're going to pull the backside guard for the play side inside. If he is out leveraged, just give him the football. We got 3 players out here to help him out and block for him, right? That's all we're doing. If he is upfield, all right, if this player here is an upfield player, just pull the football and follow your guard up inside. And they really hurt him with this, man. I know we don't want him running a ton of gap stuff, but this flat motion into this power read, it did a real number. I mean, you can wash down the 4-eye, your backside pulling through. Now the player over the center here, they get a little funky and they put a linebacker over the center is a problem, but you got a guard pulling for him. I mean, is kind of an example of Aller running, not great, but
yeah,
Will is able to run it a little better. And those are chunk gains, man. 10-yard runs are explosive runs. So we'll take those. This is a wrinkle I'm running this week. I'm going to make them, if they want to slow play it, if one down here wants to slow play this and we want to get Trevion and Quinshawn out in space, we'll take that.
yeah.
But Will can pull that and follow it and get up and through. I mean, we're talking about miles of acreage inside here. So we will take those opportunities. Ohio State needs to be running some power read this week. Most definitely. They went back to it. Same drive, man, down the goal line. Got 3 over 3 outside. The numbers are good. So you're like, okay, well, what if he sits inside? And you guys tell me.
Yeah.
Number, space, and leverage is pretty damn good out here.
Yeah.
So we'll take that. And then we'll take inside, man, where we got flow happening from the backside even. And we're just back up inside it. You got a space to run, and Drew finishes that run really well. It's a touchdown. So, I mean, I think that's another +1 run game thing they can do this week. Every card's on the table, baby. We're running Will as much as we can put him into the game and run him. We got to do it. There's no holding back. And that's a +1 thing that Penn State wasn't afraid to do. And Ohio State should be doing it all the same. And another example of it here, man, it doesn't have to necessarily be power read. This is just wide zone read. Not afraid to read that backside edge and just pull that and get downhill. Those are 5, 6, 7 yards easy. And again, like Penn State was just steadfast in their run belief that they could run tight and wide, and they did, and they really put it on them as the game wore on. Here's a look at it. And Penn State got funky. Like, these are tight splits. Was wide zone, but these are tight splits. So really you're telling yourself, man, we're going to keep this very identifiable on where to make this cut. And then we're going to get north and south like we talked about earlier. And they did a great job of it. That's
a great job by the running back setting up Birch right there. That was good. Helped out his tackle a lot.
Big time. And I mean, this is just pistol wide zone. This is more traditional look. It's just, again, these are big boy runs. These are 10-yard runs. These are not tricky plays that they're throwing at him here. This Penn State look at 90, kind of trying to play. He's a little slower, run these away from 55, put your big boys on 10 and these linebackers. And that's a game plan for me. I'm leaning into like 70, maybe 80-20 zone concepts in this one.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it. Here's, again, another look at that backside opportunity. We're going to pull that backside guard, sell front side. It does a good job with the linebackers. Watch the second level, slow down, right? Hey, man, dump it off to your back. Or, in this case, he makes a little riskier throw. Tyler Warren there, 44, is going to be a first-round guy. I don't mind it, but look at your opportunity. I mean, they're just going to flood. And then from flood, off of this look, guys, you can get real funky. And since you're making it a quad, it's a quad here, right? So what do you mean by that? We got 4 strong, put number 2 right here in that position, right? We're going to sell this. We're going to turn this into the quarterback. Hey, man, if you're getting a low sitter over here, he's kind of getting sniffy inside, we'll just run a deep over, just find him and get it to him. But we'll also give you a front side vertical sail, and then we'll give you a swing to dump it to a back who can run in space. So, again, Penn State's putting a pretty good blueprint on the field here with less skill position stuff outside. So this is good. This is good stuff that they were doing, and they really blocked it up really well too. They did a great job of identifying, like, yeah, man, this is what it looks like, but look at how clean this pass off is from 52 to 55 and just, being clean with that stuff. They were pretty good at it. It's a hell of a catch from Tyler Warren, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff, man. This is really good. I hope when the people are watching this video, I hope that they understand, like, there's a lot of football terms being thrown around. And, when Jake and I get going, obviously we're just 2 football heads. Like, I know it can be confusing, but understand the way that Jake's breaking this down is and I mean this in the nicest way, a very elementary level that is very easy to understand. And so, our good friend Tyler Emmerich was telling us, he can't watch games normally anymore because now he wants to be upset and pissed off about things. But now he's actually going back and rewinding it and actually looking like, well, Jared said this or Jeremy said this. And so, I love that, man. I want us to be an informed audience. And so when we're talking about this, I know we can get going on some football terms, but Jake's doing a great job of really breaking this down into a really elementary level that's easy to understand, and you'll be able to pick it up tomorrow night when the game's on.
Yeah,
it's
no
really
doubt.
Cool to see that callback action that Penn State runs, because that has just evolved over time. I mean, it was like 10 years ago, and I want to say it may have been Freiermuth that they killed the Buckeyes with that play. It was more of a true like fake toss, whereas here, they're just faking the action. But that has been a staple of their playbook forever.
Yep. Yeah, they have. Back to Moorhead, they've done a lot of this stuff, man, for a while, and they recruit that tight end position better than anybody in the country. To be honest,
yeah.
they do so well with that. Yeah, I don't think we have many more here. We'll wrap up. I think we're under a minute. So, just again, this is tight. This is tight with an insert. It's not anything crazy, right? We're just kind of reaching, double team, and then reaching to the backer here, digging it out. I mean, it isn't Tyler Warren is just turning out, boxing them out like a power forward, but that's it. I mean, it's just who's going to be tougher inside. Doesn't always have to be pretty. And, we don't have to dig too deep into like ace blocks and different things like that. But I just wanted to show you as the game wore on, Penn State they were down, but they didn't stop running it, and they didn't get afraid to run tight and wide. But these zone variations and combo blocks and climbs were really good. And we'll watch this from the tight view, but this is just tight zone, man. There's nothing crazy about this. This is just body on body and moving people off their spot. This is just a great job by the center and backside guard to pass off 55 here. We're climbing, the backside guard and tackle to get where they need to get. 44 is a +1, so we're not even worried about him. We can read him if we want to, but we're not worried about him. We're doing a great job of climbing. And then listen, it helps when the safety is down in the fit and we make an upfield right past him. But again, these are something Ohio State should not be afraid to run vertical. I just don't think pulling and gapping down is the best way to go about it. I think a zone approach is the best way to go at these guys in this one. So again, this is just same concept of the blocking up front is less tight, more wide. This is wide zone as a call. And then you're kind of what we used to call here, just a wide lead. So you're just pulling this man. And instead of him kicking traditional split zone right here, where he's kicking the backside edge, he's going to loop and be a Q block. Some teams will slide this player. We just call it a slide RPO, and you can throw it to him if you want to. Or you can make this a true Y lead read option where he's out here giving you a lead block on the corner, and that's all they're doing here. They put their more athletic quarterback in. Let's read that backside edge. Let's pull it off there. You got a lead block, and we're out in the, it's racist time. So this isn't fancy. This isn't stuff that hasn't been around forever. I think they just got really physical, started winning the point of attack, and when you start winning the point of attack, who starts to be faster downhill, backside players start to creep. And then you're just taking advantage of it, man, and trying to use your guys in space, your athletes. And Will Howard's every bit as athletic as number 9 there. So I think they'll +1 him often. And then I wanted to close with just a look at kind of when they do get funky and blitz, like this is a look of what Ohio State has to be prepared to handle. These Texan DT twists that are going to come their way in third and pass situations, that you cannot have these things right here happen. So I'm sure they're repping it like crazy this week because they're going to get funky. And really what I would be thinking if I'm a guard is that these guys they're inside players more often than not. So you got to be prepared for it. And he might be so far inside that you got to know someone's replacing him. So that's a little bit of like, in this delay, you'll see him kind of shuffle and then come. So it's not an immediate blitz stuff that they'll do, right? They'll get a little weird with it and try to confuse you and have some cleanup answers. So but yeah, that's it, man. That's the stuff that stood out to me. I think there's a lot of attack opportunity and zone run variations. And I do think they're going to put together some good. I mean, Chip Kelly is the godfather of mesh, man. So like they'll have man beaters in place to get some answers on coverage stuff. They did the first time. They'll do it again. It'll be a really fun game, guys. And I think Ohio State will have a good game plan for it. But Penn State really put some stuff on tape that'll mess with them. I do think that there's some run game stuff there that can mess with them.
Yeah, no, I was really shocked that Penn State was able to put up the numbers that they did. But watching the film, it's really good. Like you said, it's a lot of simple things, man. It's not anything that's overcomplicated. It's a lot of things that the Buckeyes have in their offense and that they can take from, that game. And I think we will be better prepared, even though I thought the first game we were pretty prepared. I think you're going to see us really attack with tempo. I think we're going to be doing a lot of different things, based on how we played last week. I still think we're going to be aggressive and take our shots, but I think we're going to need a big game from our running backs in the passing game. I think that will help us out a ton as well. So, that's awesome, man. We appreciate you coming on for that. Jeremy, I know you're going to want to get a prediction from our guy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say I'm going to go with 38-34. Ohio State final drive gets the redemption arc in place. They're down 3, and they got to either tie this SOB or score a touchdown, and it's poetic justice. Will gets it done, and they find a way into the end zone, and it's photographic there at the nighttime at the Rose Bowl. So that's just the feel. It is literally, I think, who has the ball last. It was that way the first time, and Ohio State was, right there. It's funny. I went back and watched that weeks later, and Will was pretty close. I think he was down. Close. I think he was closer than we thought. I'll tell you that
I think there was a second left.
I think there was too. I think if you were in his ear and calling timeout,
Ennis calling the timeout,
and you could see Will's eyes looking right at it to notice if he was down or not. So I don't know.
Now I know the TV clock's on a delay, but it's funny that you closed with the quarterback run opportunity. Because I think Will Howard's feet are the X factor. The more I think about this, he only ran the ball 9 times in that game. And since then, we've seen him be more comfortable as a runner again and design QB run stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's your X factor. I really do.
They need the Kansas State version who's willing to run. I mean, like I said, it's all cards out, man. Like, listen, no one wants to play backup quarterbacks by any stretch of the imagination here, but 3 games left, brother. You got to be a +1 if that's advantageous for us as often as we can get it from you. So, yeah, man, he's the big dog. He's got to play really well. He did the first time, had him knocking on the door. I think we can all agree here. Ohio State's defense should be better equipped to play this game than the first time. So we'll see if they do a little more of their job. But they're going to need another good Will Howard game. And then, like, you said, Katron Singleton and Allen and Nick Singleton were really good in this game and made some plays when nothing was there too. So they'll need the backs to be good. JJ and Emeka and those guys and Carnell, they'll do their job. They'll find space. They'll get open. If the quarterback and running backs play well and the offensive line holds up, they'll get into the high 30s. They can do it. There's no doubt. So I am fascinated to see how the other side of the ball goes too, because make Oregon uncomfortable. I just haven't seen them uncomfortable enough. And if you can make them uncomfortable and get off their spot, is such a simple way to say it, but man, when quarterbacks just don't know where to be in the pocket and they got to think more than they want to think, it just makes them. It makes such a different ball game. So fascinated with the chess match, man. It's going to be a great ball game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when we watched the Wisconsin game this past Sunday, and Wisconsin didn't really bring a bunch of like crazy pressures or anything. They won with their front 4, and they really put a cap on the defense. And that, we just watched the first drive, and you could see there was a play that forced Oregon to have to kick a field goal, and it was simply because Dylan Gabriel's feet were happy because there was pressure, and he had to move in out of a spot, but they did a good job of keeping him boxed into the pocket so he couldn't escape out to his left or anything like that. So I think the Buckeyes really have to come out there and, like you said, make him uncomfortable. And listen, I think our secondary is going to have a big game. I really do, man. I think there are a lot of people that are, worried that the Buckeyes may be too cocky. Like I don't get that feeling at all from those guys, man. I think Denzel Burke's going to be locked in more so than he's ever been. IGB, I don't know if there's ever been a game that he wasn't locked in. I just hope that he doesn't get a holding call or pass interference. And then Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs, you know what you're going to get from those guys. And so I think our secondary is going to be locked in, ready to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about Gabriel. And it's not, this is going to sound weird because they're both lefties, but he's got a lot of Tua to him where he's an anticipatory thrower, and that's hard to find. He's a spot guy. And if he is off that, and I don't mean in the pocket, I mean downfield, like, hey, I know if I go my eyes here, I'm going to come back here. I know that route is there. Like if you can make those uncomfortable pre to post and get them off of their spot in the pocket, he's not a wonky base creator. Yeah. He's not. He is a point guard maestro. And that's what they want there. Their OC is good at this. It's funny. That guy was Baker Mayfield's offensive coordinator, like Travis, way back when. Okay. I followed his career because he kind of followed me, and I would ask him some questions about things back in 2018 because he moved quick. He went to like UTEP or UTSA and then has worked his way quickly up. Will Stein is his name. He's done a really nice job, and they're very, very regulated in where they want the football thrown to. So if you can get him off of his first read, get him on his second and third, make him feel a little pressure. The different base, like I was showing you about, Drew Aller's he's got some flaws here, but he can throw weird base accuracy, and like that's not a thing for Dylan. So
yeah,
if you get those guys uncomfortable, I really want to see it. I just want to see it, because the first time I was kind of blown away by how they allowed him to be comfortable back there and kind of just dissect. So, I'm sure Knowles and the gang are in the box just like, what do we do to make this dude miserable? That's what we got to do. Changing looks and making him winning with 4. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, and I think, with Knowles' defense, I think, like you said, Cody Alexander's done a really good job of pointing out some of the things that he's gone back to from his Oklahoma State days. I think his defense is equipped to slow down teams like this. Mm-hmm. And I think, since, as Ryan Day put it, they re-engineered the defense, I actually think they're going to be in a better spot, especially with the front. And so that's why I picked 34-24, man. I think Oregon or Ohio State finds a way to create 2 or 3 stops throughout the game. I don't think they'll completely shut them down, but I just think, with the new stuff that we're doing defensively, it's going to cause some issues. And I think we get a turnover in there somewhere as well. So
think about it this way.
34-24.
I think you could be very right about that. If Denzel Burke plays half, just 50% better than he did in that game.
Yeah.
It's a completely different game. And I don't think that game doesn't define him. As he had a great year, I think he would probably want a better year here, but like, you want to write your legacy as a player at the college, like play 3 games here, lights out, and none of the stuff that happened before matters. Nope. So you just, like I said, I mean, all that is there, and they scored 32 points, that to me, 32 is winning you this game. I really think that. And if he just plays a little better, a snap or 2 or better, it's a different ball game, and they have a chance to win that first one. So 24 smells like, if they're winning, I mean, I think they can win up to 34, which is why I predicted it. But yeah, I mean, a world where they hold them to 24 and they got a whole bunch of different things to make them uncomfortable, and they just win those one-on-one battles like that. Sometimes it just comes down to winning it, man. Hey, they hit a couple of the slot fades on us, or a backside dig that just got open by a hair. They call it the game of inches for a reason, man. And they got to win the inches in this one. That's what I'm fascinated with.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Oregon's not a deep shot team. Outside of the game against the Buckeyes, they're not a chuck it and heave it team. They want to control the game. So they saw an opportunity, and obviously Denzel played like a 5th grader guarding Randy Moss, but it is what it is. But this one's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be intense. And in the words of somebody I'm sure we all remember, it's definitely going to be a put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner kind of game.
I can't wait, man.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, Jeremy, you could take us home, big dog.
All right. Well, as always, we appreciate Jake being here. I actually posted to the socials while you guys were doing your thing to let everybody know we got something special coming for him as we were recording this. So, as always, we appreciate it. Jake, we appreciate you. And we will see you guys on the backside.